Super excited that PolarPro sent me these filters to review. What we have here is the 6-pack Cinema Series, and this one includes everything from an ND4 all the way up to an ND16 PL. And the other one here is the Cinema Series Limited Collection ND32 all the way up to an ND64 PL. Now, I've actually been a long-time PolarPro user, and it's kind of funny because I came across one of my early sets, and PolarPro is probably going to laugh and probably hate me for this, because this is actually a set that I used to use on my GoPro. So way back in the day, back in I think 2013, 2014, I actually still have this set, and this is a PolarPro 3-pack, and it's made for a GoPro, which was actually designed to go onto your drone. So back then, if you guys are kind of old school like myself that used to fly GoPros on their Phantom 1s as well as their Phantom 2s, you weren't able to adjust the aperture on the GoPros, so you would have to, of course, do the filters on top of the GoPro. PolarPro was also one of the first ones to do this, so that's the reason why I've just known the company for a long time, and as you can see here, things have really evolved since then. The first one we'll open up is the Cinema Series 6-pack for the Mavic 2 Pro. Now, if you're not familiar with ND filters, they are basically sunglasses for your drone, and they're going to be covering the front of your camera right here. Now, the reason why they come in so many strengths, all the way from ND4 all the way to 64, is because it really depends on the type of daylight you're shooting in. If you're shooting in an overcast day, you might want to use something like an ND4 or an ND8. If you're shooting on a really, really bright day, or even in the snow, something like a 32 or ND64 would work really well to cut out some of that light. Now, the reason why you're going to change the strength of this is so that you're able to adjust your aperture and adjust your shutter speed to get exactly where you want it to be, so that you're able to get a little bit of motion blur in your video, which is a little bit more natural to the eye. Now, a lot of people like to use the 180-degree rule, which means if you're shooting at a frame rate, we'll say of 30 frames a second, you're going to want to be at a shutter speed of approximately 1/60th of a second. Now, even if you're using a Mavic 2 Pro where you're able to adjust the aperture, you're sometimes on a very bright day not able to get down to a 1/60th of a shutter speed, which means you're now going to have to introduce some ND filters on there. Really nice branding. Now, PolarPro, like I mentioned, have come a long way from their branding, which is really, really nice. So I'm a design nerd, so I'm big on branding, I'm big on marketing, and I'm big on design. So they have come a long way, and I'm extremely excited to see this new design that they've come up with. As you open it up right now, it just says Capture Perfection right here on the left-hand side. It's like a cardboard style flip case with a magnet that holds it. And as you can see here, I have these 6-packs. So let's open this up. In the case, we have the holder right here. It looks like this is the tool that we're going to be using, and it also comes with this little envelope. So as I open this up, the first thing I see here is a card that talks about their app. So if you guys don't know, PolarPro actually has an app to help you choose which filter to use based on the environment and based on the sunlight that you have on that particular day. This app is available through the App Store as well as on Google Play, and it just helps you determine which strength might work out in your situation. We also have a lifetime guarantee card. Now, this is interesting because this is the very first time I've seen PolarPro and actually any company do this, and they're actually providing a warranty that guarantees you against any damage to your gimbal or camera that might be caused from the filters. So pretty interesting. They leave a little card that talks about lifetime warranty based on the if there's any damage to your gimbal or your filter. And of course, they have a little bit of terms and conditions here on the back of this card. We have a Cinema Series filter guide that walks you through the steps on how to install and use your filters, and also a couple links here if you have questions for support. And inside this little flap, we also have the filter wipe, and this is a filter remover. Now, it looks like it has a pad right here, which is supposed to fit right on the inside of your filter. And I believe you just have to place it in the middle and then turn it and twist it for you to come off. So this kind of gives you a little bit more grip on there, because it is kind of tricky to twist and turn on your filter. It's a little magnetic clasp here that holds all your filters in place. Now let's go through this. And what this set comes with is 6 filters. Now we have the ND4, and we have the ND4 with PL, which is a polarizer. We have the ND8 with polarizer, ND16, and then ND16 with polarizer. All the neutral filters look really nice with this gold trim, and they all have the white etching here to show you what the strength is of the filter. And what we have here is the ND4 Plus polarizer, and this one actually is a black frame and has a ring in the middle that you're able to twist. Now, polarizers basically help you reduce a lot of the glare, also helps with saturation in the sky. But what you want to do is turn this ring right here and make those adjustments before you fly. So you're going to be able to put this onto your drone, dial it in here, and they even have this little white etching right here so that you're able to dial it in and know where your marker is, so that when you do have to make adjustments, they have a marker here that you can go by. Now, if you've never taken off your factory front lens here, it is a little bit tighter. So what PolarPro has done is that they've included this little tool here to help you remove that factory lens. Now, from what I can see, it's not intended to install the new lenses. It's really just intended to remove the factory one, because the factory one is the one that's on there a little bit tighter than any other lens you're going to be putting on. Then you simply put the tool right on top of the lens and make sure it's clicked in, and there you go, it's clicked in, and now you have hooks that hook onto the sides right here. Now once it's clicked in there, all you have to do is support your camera and gimbal with your offhand and turn this counterclockwise and simply remove it just like that. Now to install the new filter, all you have to do is make sure those little clips on the back are positioned counterclockwise here initially. So make sure they sit into the camera just like that at a little bit of an angle. Then all you have to do is press down and twist it clockwise, and they will then snap in place. Now if you watch one of my previous videos when I was testing out another filter, it made the camera front heavy because of the weight of the actual filter. Now as you can see here, I have the ND4 on here, and it's not making my camera move at all. It's not front heavy. There's no need for any counterbalance or anything like that. It sits the same way that the factory filter did, right on top of this camera. And testing out the startup, everything looked and worked just as expected. The ND4 as well as the NDPL. No issues at startup, no balance issues or anything like that, just like the factory filter. And when we talk about neutral density filters, it's a little easier to understand about putting, sunglasses on your camera. But when it comes down to the polarizer, as you can see here, through the reflection of the car, you can see the tree in the car easily. But then when you start turning that polarizer around, now that tree disappears. The glares are removed, those reflections are removed just by turning this lens just a little bit. So I wanted to show you guys more on the ground, because when it's in the air, it's hard to understand exactly what is happening. So I just want to show you exactly what the polarizer is actually doing. So as you can see here, you can see the reflection and the glare on the car itself. And of course, my camera is moving a little bit because I'm actually grabbing the gimbal. And all I'm doing is just rotating this slightly. And here's another example, just kind of showing you through the windshield. And like I said, I'm just kind of using this as a close-up shot so you can actually see what the polarizer is doing. As you can tell right now, the glare is really strong right here, and just by me turning that lens just a little bit, that glare and that reflection is removed. So if you were to think about using this thing outside where you're shooting where there's a lot of buildings or a lot of moving objects that might have some reflection, just let you know that this is what's happening while you're making those adjustments on the lens. Now, a common thing to shoot, of course, is sky as well as leaves. Now, there's a ton of highlights throughout the tree here on those leaves. And as you make the adjustments on the polarizer, you can see some of that glare start to be removed, as well as some saturation being brought back into that sky. You can start seeing a lot more clouds come out of that sky. So of course, I'm going to take these up in the air. I want to see if there's any difference with color between the ND filters as well as with the PL. So the first shot we have here is with no filter, white balance at sunny, changing it up a little bit, shooting at 2.7 at 60 frames a second. My aperture is at 5.6 and my shutter speed is pretty high at 1/400th of a second. And because I changed it up at 2.7 at 60 frames a second, ideally I'd like to get my shutter speed 2 times my frame rate, which is about 120. So in order for me to do that, I have to use an ND8 to get the proper exposure. So now that I was dialed in as far as which ND strength to use, I wanted to try the ND8 with the PL to see how much of a difference it would be in color and saturation. As you can see here, a lot of that glare that initially was in that water is now gone, as well as a lot of the highlights within the shrubs and the trees are also dimmed down a lot. Now here's all three: no filter, ND8, ND8 with PL. Now remember, I shot all these on normal mode. Now if you wanted to shoot in D-Log, you also have a lot more flexibility in post-processing, but I feel like a majority of people just want to see the straight out of camera difference utilizing the ND8 filters or ND filters in general, as well as what the difference is with using something like a polarizer in addition to the neutral density filter. So there it is, guys. This is the new PolarPro filters for the Mavic 2 Pro. Of course, they have a set for the zoom as well, and I can't wait. They have some long exposure ones that are going to be coming out shortly, so I'm excited to see how those are going to work with some long exposure photography. As you guys know, I love long exposure photography. Now, if you guys want to know a little bit more about some of the filter videos, I'll make sure those are linked above. I have a whole playlist on just about filters, so if there's something that I might not have covered in here, I might have covered in another video, so make sure you guys check out that playlist. As always, guys, if you guys got some value from my video, please don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Ultra Anastacio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.